Businesses are upbeat about the economic future, but consumer sentiment tumbles. The Reserve Bank says it wants to trial a digital currency, and Australia's big five consulting firms earned $2 billion from work for the federal government in just 1 year. It's Wednesday, the 10th of August, 2022. Welcome to Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Adam Lang, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Adam. And it's a sad reflection on what's been going on the last couple of days. Yesterday, we talked about Judith Durham. Today, the very sad passing of Olivia Newton-John. Did you have anything to do with her in your years, Adam?
I didn't. I did happen to meet her, though, and she was an absolute delight.
Yeah, it seems to be, everyone says that. She's a very down-to-earth, wonderful person, really, seems to be the gist.
She was, and she was a superstar. You remember Grease and Xanadu? They're kind of our vintage, Sean, physical.
Yeah, I don't like to say that, Adam, but yeah, they're totally our vintage. I mean, that's high school for me. Grease is high school.
So immediately after the business news, stay listening for Sean's chat with Rob Gell, Executive Director of Rethink Sustainability.
Yes, the conversation's all about this circular economy and particularly recycling. We have a great chat about recycling and also all those solar panels that people have on their roofs. What's going to happen to those when they hit their use-by date? It's a really interesting chat with Rob.
I'll certainly be listening again this morning, Sean. Now, to the main story, it's a tale of two economies. Business is confident and getting more optimistic. Consumers are in the doldrums and their mood is darkening.
It has become a worrying divergence between consumers and business. Of course, for the economy to be firing, we need both sides to be reasonably confident. Taking the consumer first, the Westpac Melbourne Institute Index fell for the 9th straight month in August and is at levels last seen in the early months of the pandemic. It's not hard to explain. Higher interest rates and a surging cost of living is dampening spirits. One of the most watched indicators in the series, whether it's a good time to buy a household item, fell back 8%. That is a really big fall. Westpac Chief Economist Bill Evans said sentiment might be near the bottom, but falling house prices remain a concern.
All right, what about business confidence, Sean?
Well, the National Australia Bank Business Confidence and Conditions measures strengthened last month with record levels of capacity utilisation, cost growth and price rises. Confidence is back above the long-run average among businesses, despite the macroeconomic outlook. Now, business conditions are also well above average, with trading conditions, profitability and employment all higher. The standout sector is construction, but the improvements really are broad-based across all states. So we have consumers grumpy, businesses pretty happy.
So, Sean, I like to think as you and I as optimists, do you think there's a few more optimists out there in the business sentiment land?
Oh, possibly. I mean, certainly, in a sense, what does this all mean? And what it does show is certainly how much pressure is on households at the moment. They're feeling the pinch. The worry is that businesses, which broadly have been able to cope with higher input prices, sometimes by passing those prices on to consumers, suddenly find a lack of buyers. So lower consumer confidence should lead to lower consumer spending, and that's when it really hits business. The Reserve Bank's role, of course, in all of this is to lift interest rates enough to cause spending to slow, but not crash. That would be a disaster for business. If it can do that, then pressure will come off inflation. It's certainly a tricky balancing act. Hopefully, consumer sentiment turns around before business sentiment tumbles.
Sean, they're significant pieces of news. So how did the local markets perform yesterday?
The S&P ASX 200 closed the day up slightly to 7,030 points. Telcos were the best performing sector. Telstra jumped about 1%. Tech stocks also did well, while financials and utilities were among the worst performers. Among the large caps, the banks were lower thanks to a disappointing result from National Australia Bank. More of that shortly. The three big miners, BHP, Fortescue Metals and Rio Tinto, also fell back. Wesfarmers and industrial property giant Goodman Group both rose 1.8%, while Aristocrat Leisure and QBE Insurance were both more than 1% higher. WiseTech Global jumped 2.5%, while Xero was up 3%. That's what happened among the large caps. There was plenty of action, though, in the small caps and mid cap range. Lithium miner Lake Resources jumped 16% despite making no market announcement. Now, Lake is among the most shorted stocks on the market, which means investors are betting on the share price falling. But Lake's share price has doubled in less than a month, meaning there's a bunch of short sellers out there who have done their money. Megaport's share price rose 10% after it reported positive earnings in the fourth quarter. The telco infrastructure company laid off 35 staff, which was enough to turn things around. The group reported a jump in revenue last financial year, driven by its expanding data center footprint in the US. Shares in Mesoblast fell more than 6% after the stem cell company completed a $65 million capital raising. Coal miner Coronado reported a net profit of $562 million US dollars for the half year to June 30. Adam, that's nearly 7 times what it made a year earlier.
Wow.
Nothing like soaring coal prices to help things out. It's one of the 10 best performing stocks of the top 200 over the past year. In fact, 4 of the 10 are coal miners, 4 of them are lithium miners. Those sectors really are doing well at the moment. And finally, just a quick update from a story yesterday. French waste management giant Veolia has confirmed it will offload its Suez waste management business in Britain to Macquarie Group, which will pay 2.4 billion euros, which is about 3.5 billion Aussie dollars for the asset.
Sean, short selling and Lake Resources. Short selling is not for the faint-hearted, is it?
No, you need a lot of money to be a short seller, and Lake is one where people have done a lot of money on.
Incredible. Now, what about international markets?
Well, believe it or not, Adam, meme stocks are making a comeback.
Okay.
I thought they'd died. I'd hoped they'd died. Retail traders are back taking punts on popular mum and dad companies. Now, the ones in the news at the moment, Bed Bath & Beyond is one, and AMC Entertainment Holdings. They own a bunch of cinemas and leisure outlets. Bed Bath & Beyond's share price tripled over the past couple of weeks. AMC is up 65%. That's very courageous retail shareholders out there betting on these meme stocks. Also, oil and gold prices are slightly lower over the past 24 hours, and the Aussie dollar is buying almost 70 US cents.
We'll be back in a moment with the rest of the day's business news. National Australia Bank has reported disappointing revenue numbers for the June quarter, sending its share price down more than 3%.
Australia's second largest bank reported a third quarter profit of $1.8 billion, which CEO Ross McEwan said was pleasing, but higher funding costs, thanks to higher interest rates, hurt the bank. The bank's credit quality outlook was benign. That's good news. That suggests that homeowners so far have been able to withstand the rush of higher interest rates. About 7 in 10 National Australia Bank home loan customers are ahead in their repayment schedule. What hasn't come through yet, though, is the impact of higher mortgage rates on the bank's bottom line. That should improve things, but all in all, a bit of a disappointing result.
Sean, the Reserve Bank of Australia is exploring use cases for a central bank digital currency, showing that a central bank digital currency, a CBDC, is on the horizon.
Yes, the bank is collaborating with the Digital Finance Cooperative Research Centre to explore use cases up front. A CBDC, a central bank digital currency, is not like a cryptocurrency. Instead, it would be backed by some sort of central bank or government guarantee, a massive difference between that and a crypto. Where it is similar, though, is through the use of crypto technology, such as distributed ledger technology. The collaboration between the Reserve Bank and the Digital Finance Cooperative Research Centre will take a year to complete. It will also involve a limited-scale CBDC pilot operating in a ring-fenced environment. So that is Reserve Bank speak for saying they're actually going to trial a digital currency. It's a really big step forward because the central bank-backed digital unit is a massive step towards digitising real-world assets.
Sean, Australia's big consulting firms secured $2 billion worth of taxpayer-funded work last financial year.
It's an incredible number for the 5 largest consulting firms. Accenture led the way with $578 million worth of work, according to the Financial Review. Then came KPMG with more than $500 million of work, Deloitte at $384 million, PwC at $329 million, and EY at $210 million. The numbers are eye-watering. This is just 12 months. Now, when the coalition came to power in 2013, spending on the Big Four, which doesn't include Accenture, was less than $400 million. Last financial year, it's 5 times that level. The biggest spender on consultants by far is the Department of Defence, which outlaid nearly $700 million, followed by the Australian Taxation Office and the Department of Home Affairs. I get that consultants are needed at times, but $2 billion worth of taxpayer money to fund consultants? Not so sure.
I am stunned at those numbers, Sean, and I'm sure we are not alone. Staying in Canberra and in federal politics, opposition leader Peter Dutton has jumped on the decision by the South Australian Premier to hand back a $125,000 donation from the Victorian CFMEU, saying it's a precedent which federal Labor should follow.
It's a really interesting story. Peter Malinauskas ordered South Australia Labor to hand back the donation after cars were damaged in a suspicious attack at the Master Builders Association headquarters in Adelaide. That, of course, is the employer group that deals with the union, the CFMEU. Now, the CFMEU is a militant union. It denied it was responsible for the attack, but the South Australian Premier doesn't want the money that the CFMEU donated. Mr Dutton jumped on the action, saying Prime Minister Anthony Albanese should also follow the lead of the South Australian Premier and hand back union donations.
That will be interesting to see what happens. News Corp reported a 31% jump in pre-tax earnings for the last financial year, and that was thanks to a big jump in its real estate division.
That division includes News' ownership in REA Group here in Australia and Realtor.com in the US. The results pleased shareholders who pushed up the group's share price nearly 4% yesterday. Another part of the business to do well was Dow Jones, which owns the Wall Street Journal and Barron's. Its pre-tax profit jumped 30%. The local businesses appear to be doing okay, though I've got to say, Adam, deciphering News Corp results is never easy and certainly not my specialty.
Well, thank you for giving it a crack, Sean. Online property group REA said pre-tax profit jumped 17%.
Yeah, it was a strong result on the back of good revenue growth. Operating costs were also much higher, though, driven by its purchase of Broker Mortgage Choice and REA India. Its share price was up 7.5%. Yesterday, a very good day for REA. Its arch rival Domain's share price was up 8.7%, and that's kind of reflected glory there. People were pushing up both REA and Domain.
And Sean, negotiations for broadcasting rights for the AFL from 2025 have begun. It's a little early, but the league wants a new $600 million a year for the broadcast rights.
Yes, it's all about free-to-air and streaming rights. Now, the incumbents, of course, are Foxtel and Seven West Media. The alternate bidders are Paramount, which owns Network 10, and Nine Entertainment. Of course, the AFL could go low on streaming. Some of the big sports in the US have done that, but that is probably less likely. Over the past 48 hours, there's been media reports that the asking price is $600 million a year. It's a lot of money, Adam.
It is, Sean, and it's interesting that the deal for 2025 is being done now, but that's because the CEO of the AFL, Gillan McLachlan, wants to leave after this season. He would like to get that done well ahead of his departure.
Fair enough.
Moving on to overseas news, Sean, FBI agents raided former US President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago-estate in Palm Beach, Florida.
Mr. Trump posted on social media that his residence was under siege, raided and occupied by a large group of FBI agents, adding that nothing like this has ever happened to a president of the US before. I'm not sure about that, Adam, but it wouldn't surprise me if he is right this time. Media reports suggest it relates to Mr. Trump's handling of sensitive material from his time at the White House. 15 boxes marked top secret have already been retrieved from his home previously. It certainly is a significant step by prosecutors against the former president over his handling of classified information.
Now, Sean, I'm just reminded of January the 6th in Washington, D.C. Were any of the agents wearing a buffalo hat with horns?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's good. Japanese conglomerate SoftBank has announced a US $23.4 billion loss, largely due to foreign currency losses and the falling financial markets.
Boss Masayoshi Son said he plans widespread cost-cutting as a result. No surprises there, which outside the US and UK is one of the largest corporate losses ever. Certainly, it's the biggest loss for SoftBank, which has investments around the world. The group's venture capital fund, the SoftBank Vision Fund, sustained the bulk of the losses. It's the world's largest technology fund and holds stakes in hundreds of unlisted technology startups, and we all know what's happened to the value of tech companies recently.
So, Sean, a US $23.4 billion loss and maybe an interesting path ahead too.
Yes, SoftBank has had some very unfortunate investments over the past couple of years.
Sean, a couple of days ago, we celebrated the departure from Ukraine of a fully laden vessel, the first since Russia invaded. Now that ship is stuck in the Mediterranean Sea.
That's right. The carrier is loaded with 26,500 tonnes of corn. It was bound for Lebanon, but the buyer has rejected the shipment, saying it's 5 months late. I wonder why. Now the owner of the cargo is looking for a new buyer. There has been one successful ship to reach its destination that departed from Ukraine. A smaller load of corn did make it to Turkey, but it just demonstrates how difficult it is for sellers of grains in Ukraine to actually find buyers and transport it to them.
Just when you thought it wasn't tough enough already in Ukraine, right?
Exactly.
Up next is the Fear and Greed daily interview with Rob Gell.
Yeah, we mentioned this at the top of the show, a really interesting chat about renewables and the circular economy. And he's a big fan of people making a real effort when they recycle anything from PET bottles through to solar panels. A fascinating chat with Rob.
And a good ethic behind it too. That's up next in the Fear and Greed playlist on your podcast platform or at fearandgreed.com.au. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Adam.
It's Wednesday, the 10th of August, 2022. Make sure you're following the podcast. Join us online on LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook. I'm Adam Lang, and that was Fear and Greed. Have a great day.